everybody. We'll call the meeting to order. It is an open session meeting this afternoon, likely the last growth committee meeting of this council's mandate. So today we're going to talk about a number of Encore program items, and we're going to have an important roundtable discussion, reflections on the last 5 years in terms of this committee's work, what we are proud of, and any areas that we think we could improve. So I'm looking forward to the discussion. Excellent agenda. Thank you very much to staff for pulling all this together. One more meeting that was unplanned, but I think really important to have these conversations and move some important business forward for the city before we finish up. So we'll call the meeting to order. The first item is the approval of the minutes of April the 13th. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor McKenzie. Seconded by Ray. Councillor Strobridge, thank you. And on the question, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anyone contrary-minded? Okay, not seeing or hearing anyone. That motion is carried. Thanks. Okay, and next up we have a Municipal Encore Program, our Sidewalk Cafe Rebate Initiative. And I will turn that over to Mr. David Dobbelstein.
Your Worship. Good afternoon, members of Growth Committee. What you have before you is another Encore initiative. This is sort of another one in the line of things that the Growth Committee will see this year. We've already seen a few this year. We saw some last year. As you know, the Council last week, and again will happen this week, we are updating our bylaws relates to street hawkers and peddlers, and in that is regarding Sidewalk Cafe program. And some of the direction that we heard from Council is you wanted to have a discussion about the possibility of waiving fees for patio permits this year. As you are all aware, this wasn't an option that was available to the city last year due to sustainability concerns. This year, though, we have the Encore program fully running, and we've already done similar things. So what you have before you is a simple one-year initiative that will effectively allow for that to happen. So in practice, what will happen is we will use the same existing program. Applicants who want a sidewalk patio will be able to come to City Hall and apply for their patio. Instead of having to pay, they will still pay their deposit, which they'd get at the end of the season, but they would effectively have an instant rebate at the time of payment, both for the space that they would require either on the sidewalk or on the street right of way. We would also waive the fees for the parking spaces if they have any built structures that need additional space. So it's fairly straightforward policy. We can implement it very easily. We'll also rebate any applicants who've already paid and been approved this year if council chooses. But subject to that, we're here to take questions, and I am joined by Barb Crawford, who oversees the program, as well as Mark Dion, our General Manager of the Parking Commission. Okay, thank you, Mr. Dobbelstein. Welcome, Deputy. I know you were having a few IT problems. Good to see you. Committee, any questions, comments? First, would somebody like to move the recommendation? Okay, go ahead, Councillor. Okay, moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Strobridge. Councillor McKenzie, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, I think that this is a really good initiative. I think it really shows, the city's interested in, businesses being successful this summer. And the way the numbers are going right now, we're going to need every bit of help that we can get for businesses uptown. So, yeah, I'm very supportive of it. I think it's a great idea. Okay, thank you. Councillor Armstrong, and then I'll go to you, Deputy. Councillor Armstrong.
Sorry. Thank you. David, this high-tech crap, I don't get along with it. Anyway, sorry. I don't know how to take the battery out of me.
That's right. You put it under your chair, Councillor, and you roll over.
Anyway, David, I did. The biggest compliment I got on that sidewalk closures last year was all those small picnic tables you put out. And I hope you put them out again and just leave them there, because I know we all get the people that don't want to pay for anything, but it was a great asset for those that went to get something to eat and had a place to sit on the sunny days. I just want to bring that to your attention, because a lot of people commented to me. I hope they bring them back this year and leave them on the street, because last year you had to move them all around, right? Because one street closed. But just some information for background. I think it's great that you're bringing it for free. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor. You're muted, Deputy. You're muted there, Deputy. I might be able to get you. Just one sec here.
Okay, here I am.
Yep, there you
Here
are.
I am.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm on a different system here, but I agree with the recommendation. I have no problem for it. I think it's a great idea, but I mean, how could I not vote for it? I mean, the newspaper has already told me how to vote. They told everybody in the city of St. John how to vote. So, it's all been in the paper already. I've read it. So, but it is a good idea. So I guess, the only thing I'd like to say for next growth committee coming up is that when you have an idea like that, no use to sending it back to the growth committee after it goes to council, because the newspaper will tell us what to do. And it would be awful if we didn't vote the way they wanted us to. So I'm just adding that in. I thought that was kind of funny.
Okay.
Not funny, really.
No, thank you. Thank you. Deputy.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing significant to add, just that I'm very supportive. We're really glad, David, to see you guys reacting so well to the trends that we're seeing in other cities, but also requests from small business owners and restaurants in the area. So that was really nice to see. Certainly to Councillor Armstrong's point, the picnic tables, which I believe were part of discussion that was had at the Community Arts Board and kind of originated from there, are a great addition, and anything we can kind of do to support that. I know Uptown St. John is still talking about those parklets and stuff like that efforts. So any way we can support that throughout the summer is a great way to support the community. So I'm all in.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Through you, Your Worship, to the councillors who've asked basically similar questions. We've already tasked staff with looking into bringing picnic tables back, particularly to the Uptown, and you should expect to see some shortly. We'll have to obviously look at them for maintenance issues, but there's already discussions happening, and we expect most will be able to come back at various places. And that would, I assume that would include the pop-up park down beside Loyalist Plaza, David? I believe the pop-up park has been sold to the developer who's developing Fundy Key, so we no longer have access to that site. So no, it will not include that pop-up park, but we will have them placed in other strategic areas. Okay, well, and just maybe a housekeeping. I mean, if even with the sale, if that's not going to be impacted by construction this season, it would be awfully nice to still use it for this season. If it is, certainly understand that. A couple of questions for me. In the numbers, the dollars and cents, it's up to $20,000, but the actual cost last year was around $5,000. Is that correct? That is correct, yes. Okay, so we're just leaving a bit of room that if others want to join in. Okay, perfect. I'm fully supportive as well. Thank you. This is a great example of the growth team taking an idea, getting some feedback, taking an idea and turning it around in a matter of weeks. So really pleased to see this. Our hospitality, tourism, restaurateurs, bars, they've had a tough go. It's been a tough go with, over the last year. So this is relatively small, but I'm sure is going to be very much appreciated by those restaurants and those. Then we might see some other patios pop up, which gives even more vibrancy, to the core. So thank you very much to the growth team for pulling this together so quickly and responding to the ask. Okay, excellent. So the question, the recommendations on the floor. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary-minded? Unanimous support. Thank you very much. Okay, next up, we have another Encore initiative. This is the Municipal Encore Program, St. John Tourism Incentive Program. And is that you? Oh, sorry. Yep. Are you moving that, Councillor Strobridge? Yeah, moved, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. Thank you. Perhaps just for those watching at home, David, could you give it maybe just a high-level overview of this one, please? Thank you, Your Worship. So this is a trilateral proposal that would be through the Encore program. That would be a partnership between the St. John Hotel Association and our new Envision St. John. And this is a stimulus program to incentivize people to come and stay in the city when it is safe to do so. So this would be through the use of providing Uptown St. John cards so that we would ensure that people who are staying in our hotels and bed and breakfasts and things like that will spend the money locally. And would also incentivize them to come here and take a weekend away to take in some R&R and to get back to a little bit of sense of normalcy. We obviously want to try to time this with the reopening of the Atlantic bubble, if that is possible, but we'll be deferring as well to Envision St. John and who they think is best poised to market to through the season, while respecting all mandatory order regulations and taking that into strong advisement. We'll also be drafting a simple memorandum of understanding with our partners, just so we all know who is doing what, and we'll be coming back to Growth Committee. We would expect probably later this summer or fall with a report on the outcomes of the program. It's a relatively simple program. It's $60,000. We anticipate it will drive approximately $250,000 in economic impact for our hospitality sector. And so staff are recommending this for your consideration.
Sorry, David, 60,000 is the overall program. The city shares 20,000.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Yeah, and the Hotel Association has been a great partner over the years. Just remind committee and the members at home that, you know, even in the last, prior to COVID, I guess it was more than a year ago, the Hotel Association invested over $60,000 to support the hockey arena fees to help us get more time, to give us more time to try to come to some arrangement in the region. They've invested millions of dollars over the years, and certainly has been a very tough, very tough time on hotels and convention centers and so on over the last year. So again, this is one I'm very supportive of also. Okay, I don't see any hands. Councillor McKenzie, question, comment?
I just wanted to say, Your Worship, I mean, you covered it, but this is an example of a really good partnership with the Hotel Association. They helped out in the past, and this is going to not only help their industry, but also all of the restaurants, bars, and shops, you know, that people visit. So this is the type of partnership that it's like an investment, not just for the city, but for the businesses and the hotels. So I'm very supportive of it, and I'd like to see more of it. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, it is innovative, Mr. Dobbelstein. I do like the way you've pulled it together and pulled it together quickly again. Okay, thank you. I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Thank you. And anybody contrary minded? Okay, thank you. The motion is carried. Excellent. We're flying along today, folks. Thanks. Next up, we have a growth committee in review. So this is a round table, excuse me, and we'll just go around the table on each one of these questions. And I think this is meant for, you know, our staff and all those that have supported us over the last 5 years to get that feedback and to look for, you know, not only what are we interested in celebrating, but also what advice might we have for the next council in terms of focus, and are there some areas that we think we can improve? So first question, what accomplishments of Growth Committee are you most proud of? And just before we jump in there, Commissioner Hamilton or Mr. Ouellette, is that all we're looking for today, is just straight feedback? Do you have any context that you'd like to provide before we get going, or are you just looking for us to have a bit of a roundtable discussion?
I can jump in here, Your Worship. Certainly, I think you set the context well. This is really an opportunity for reflections on what you see as are the major accomplishments over your time with the Growth Committee, and also, you know, with your experience and insights, what are key learnings that you would share with the next Growth Committee? So I think these questions provide a bit of a frame of reference for you, but certainly don't intend them to be limiting in any way. We're just looking for your advice and insights to share with the next Growth Committee.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so again, first question, what accomplishments of Growth Committee are you most proud of? And we can, you know, just sort of rapid fire, and our staff teams will be taking notes, I'm sure. Who would like to kick us off? Councillor McKenzie, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. I think that, you know, the Growth Committee, when we started this, we really, you know, didn't have a real good idea where we were going. But boy, I'll tell you, it didn't take long to get off the ground and start making things happen. And in large part, that's due to staff's, you know, effort. I'm really proud of the fact that, you know, we've dealt with absentee landlords and actually by cleaning up some dilapidated buildings have actually put pressure on other landlords to renovate their buildings. And now we've got almost 80% compliance with people renovating rather than having to tear them down. So I'm really proud of that, because that's worked for us really well. I like the efforts too, with developing the one-stop development shop and recognizing the issues that we had. And a good example of that is a 6-story wooden structure. Developers needed that, and we didn't have the ability to allow it. Well, now we do, and I think that that's gonna pay dividends for us down the road. So there's just a couple of examples, so I won't take up too much time, but I think that the growth committee's been very successful. We see that in the uptown area especially, but also all around the city. There's all kinds of development going on now. And with that development comes growth, because people move into those apartments when they're ready to go. And I know that I've talked to a couple of developers. They've got houses sold, apartments rented before they're even completed. So that speaks volumes to the efforts of this committee and council on trying to grow the community. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, anyone else? Councillor, it's okay, just come to you, Ray, in a second. Councillor Hickey, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Certainly for me, I haven't had the opportunity to be on the committee for as long as the rest of the members, but a couple of years ago, I was really pleased and excited to grab an oar and keep pushing us along in the direction that I think the committee was going. And I think there's a huge amount of value in what this committee has brought in changing the attitude around development, not just within City Hall, but I think you can see it reflected through the obvious impact in the community, whether it's development increases in the uptown and beyond. I think these are really evident. Certainly one of my most appreciated exercises of this committee has been going through our permitting list. I think doing that as an effort to offer not only members of council, but members of the public with updates on how certain projects are going, not only helps deal with those community relations on these projects, but I think also supports the attention to more development and the attention to growth in the community. And I think that's what is starting to make the difference. Certainly efforts like redefining the permitting process to the one-stop shop. I've always appreciated the addressing our dilapidated buildings list has always been a huge one for me. I think looking forward, if I was to add anything to the list, I think exercises like this are really valuable. Taking the time, and perhaps I don't know whether or not it's better reflected in these open meetings or in closed ones, but having the opportunity to have roundtable discussions about best practices in other communities for growth, about best practices for developments in other communities, supporting new efforts, having idea exchanges that don't necessarily need to come along with staff reports, but more keep us thinking about what's on the horizon and what's next, instead of just having and I think it broadens the scope of the committee beyond just having it as an on-ramp into a council meeting. So I think those are some efforts that I would consider looking to into the next term. Hopefully I get the chance to sit around this table in the next term as well. I think that really sums up my thoughts, but I've always been really proud of what the committee and staff have accomplished through this committee.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Strobridge.
Thank you, Your Worship, and everyone on the Growth Committee. It's been nice serving with you these past 5 years. To all the staff that also worked along with us and guided us and kind of took what we want and then put it into action. Thank you very much for your time and effort. When I think back on our Growth Committee, I refer back to the roadmap for smart growth. I believe that was our document to go on, and I believe that was our very first step when the Growth Committee was first invented by us back in 2016. And so I brought up that document for this meeting because I really wanted to ask myself, I like data. I like being able to say, we said we were going to do this, and this is how we did on it. And I'm not the best at keeping my own voting record organized in my own mind. You know, as you all know, we vote on things every 2 weeks, and unless it's something that was really big and substantial, I don't think a lot of us can recall something that we may have voted on, even, you know, as far away as a couple months ago. So what I was hoping for when we came together today is I wanted a report card on what we did, exactly what our numbers are, what we achieved up against what we said we were going to do with the roadmap. And so one of the things in our smart growth document was population growth, employment growth, and tax base growth. And what I would like to see, at least for the next council, because the next council will decide if they want to keep a growth committee or not. This is a committee of council. It didn't exist before us. And it was led by Mayor Darling's mandate of growth and everything that falls underneath that umbrella. And what I would ask for is that a document, a report card is prepared and passed on to the next council. Because it's one thing to say the growth committee, we need to have it because we all want growth and all those other silos that come underneath it. Okay, but okay, great, we all want that. But I want to see, prove it to me that the growth committee has worked, and specifically give me the numbers. So when I look at population growth, okay, in the mandate of the growth committee, did the population actually grow? Prove it to me. Employment growth, did it actually grow? And tax base growth, and so on. And when I came here today, the question is, what are some of the things you're proud of? I can't say yet because I don't know exactly. Councillor McKenzie brought up the one-stop development shop, and I believe the one-stop development shop was invented under the last council. It had nothing to do with the growth committee. We, John, you and I and the other councillors accomplished that last term, right? And it's simply because we process and read and vote on so much, at least for myself. I can't recall it all. I would be horrible in a debate because I can't recall all the good things that we did. And I don't have a press secretary or a whole department machine behind me recording that for me, right? Oh, remember this one 2 years ago? Don't forget to talk about that. I think you guys understand my point. So when I refer back to our document, and if somebody has something to offer for it, please. I want to see a report card, my own report card, this committee's report card. Did we achieve it? I mean, of course, I know you can look around, there's cranes in the air and people are investing in the city. That goes without saying. We can all see that. I guess I'm just really hard on myself, and I would really like to have that report card.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I think you got into some of the change there too. I had some similar comments, but we'll come back to that. Deputy Mayor, anything to add in this first proud of? We're still in the proud of stage.
Well, I think for me, for the growth committee, when we started, we all knew we had a little problem in the city. I'm not saying it was a big problem, but I had a little problem to work with our developers and to encourage them to have a better working relationship with all of our staff members, and just to have more faith in the city and in investment, and to convince them to invest in the city. And I think over the last 5 years, there's been a big change in the city with developers, whether they're from within the city or whether they're people that are coming into the city from away to invest. I think there's been a change of attitude. I think that our staff have done a great job. I'd say thank you to them. They've reached out to the public. They've been able to meet with different developers and talk to them and convince them, and that St. John's the place to spend your money and invest. And it's happened. I mean, if you look at the city as a whole right now, I mean, we've got tons of growth in residential, and some of our businesses are expanding, whether they be small or large, and they all work with developers and contractors. And we've had some very good words said to council directly to yourself, Your Worship, for holding on to the growth and being focused on that. I think that that's been a big change overall in St. John. And I think we don't hear from everybody. And sometimes it's impossible to do that when you are in a city. But I think everybody in St. John sees the change of the growth, and this council's made it happen. And no, we don't know how many dollars that's produced in tax base, but as you go forward, those dollars will come and it will increase. So you may not see a lot of that difference until years from now. But I think, to me, that's our greatest thing, that we've made St. John become alive, and there's a lot of growth going on. If I wanted to say something to the next council coming in, because they're going to be the sort of the people that are going to have all this new growth, they're going to be at the openings cutting the ribbons, and if there are openings, there certainly will be some. They're going to be cutting the ribbons and encouraging more people to move to St. John. I think what the city has to remember, and it's not a negative, to me it's a plus, is that we have to service the community. So, beautification and keeping the city clean, and making sure that when people walk on whatever street they want to walk on, that they're proud of the city. Like we're doing, I'm going to do an opinion on, or a survey on sometime in the future there, on what people think. But you got to get out and go beyond the borders of Uptown St. John. When you do these surveys, they got to be for little areas in all parts of the city, because then you get a different view from everybody, and that's good. You need to know what they think, and just to make people proud, because the people that can sell your city the best are our own citizens. So if our own citizens go to the coffee shops and they meet other people coming in to visit St. John, and I'm not talking today, I'm talking every day, it's a plus for us, and it's free. We need our salespeople, and our salespeople are ourselves and our citizens. And when we brag about St. John to somebody that's from Nova Scotia or Ontario or wherever, and there are people, even though we're in COVID, there's still people getting in to find out what's going on in other cities. That's why we still have people moving here. It's not all closed off, as some people may think. There's still people move, or they're buying property anyway from outside, so they do plan to come here as soon as they can get here. So we just have to keep that in mind and remember to be proud. There's no sense of being negative. You might as well be proud of what you got. And we got a great city. So I think the Growth Committee's been a great start, and I think that the next council hopefully will keep it going, and we'll have to see what happens. Whoever becomes the leader of the pack, as I call it, the new mayor, they'll have to make sure that they keep things going.
Perfect. Thank you, Deputy. I didn't see Councillor Armstrong's hand, so I'll just maybe add a couple of comments just on most proud. I think I'm incredibly proud. And again, I was going to save, and I will probably circle back, but just to pile on, for the leadership of our staff team, our Commissioner of Growth and Community Development, Ms. Hamilton, Ms. Poffenroth, Phil Ouellette, David, the support of the clerk's office, who've just been phenomenal, steadfast in delivering results after results. And it was mentioned as a candidate, I talked about growing, people, jobs, the tax base. We embedded that in council's priorities. We then developed the committee structure. And we have tremendous momentum right now. And I think what we've shown is that when you put plans in place, and there was I think, fair criticism about the plans that the city developed in the past, but perhaps we were challenged to action them. But right out of the gate, this committee developed the roadmap for smart growth and really just went through it with a pace that very, very vigorous pace. Then we developed the population growth strategy. And I think that we have St. Johners believe in themselves more, I think, in 2021 than they did in 2016. And I'm very proud of that. So we focused on growth. We developed the roadmap. We knew population growth was critical. There's been a culture shift. We've delivered results, record. And I'm going to pick up on the next question, Councillor Strobridge, your comment on the scorecard, but record growth in terms of building permits and investment. And it is no small feat. Collectively, the collective, we turned around a population growth decline that was, decades. We suffered from that. In 2016, I can still remember I was in the Ludlow room and I gave an interview, and our population had declined by 2,500 people. And we, StatsCan estimated that our population went from 67,475 to 71,364 in 2020. So, that is no small feat. It's 3,800 people. And for the first time in decades that we turned that around. So, I'm very, very proud of that. We've made process improvements. We've changed and again, you're right, Councillor Strobridge. It's hard to remember. There's been so much. But we, right out of the gate, challenged the outcomes of our economic development agencies. We implemented mandate letters. We made changes to the former waterfront development. We brought develop St. John around because we knew how critically important tax base growth was. We shifted people around. So this committee, with staff's day-to-day support, has made growth a daily focus and a daily action within this organization. And I think that we've gotten tremendous results. So we've got a better understanding in the community of the need for growth. We've got more discipline around growth. We've taken more actions on a daily basis around growth, and we've gotten results. So I am incredibly proud, and it's hard to talk about all those things without also talking about the fiscal discipline of our finance committee, driven by staff, the momentum that we have, and all of these things are interwoven. So as we move forward, we are in a stronger position. We've paid down debt by 20%. We have reserves. We had no reserves in 2016. We've set the table for a tax rate to be lowered in 2022. We've set the table for reforms, and we have a commitment for tax reform. Probably the single biggest contributor to accelerated growth outcomes in the future is going to be tax reform. So our MLA, we have more ministers per capita and MLAs in the Greater St. John region and anywhere else in the province. So I have confidence that our premier, who's a straight shooter, who's promised tax reform to St. John and regional cost sharing, is going to deliver on those things as well. So I think we didn't just talk about it. We put a tremendous amount of action in place, and we have delivered results, from this committee, obviously backed by our staff. So those would be my comments on what I'm proud of. I'm proud that St. Johners talk about growth every day, and they know how important it is. And that didn't happen on its own. It happened because this committee and our staff put plans in place and they took action. So I'm very, very proud of that. Okay, I think we some of us answered the next piece. Are there changes to committee meetings or structures that you would recommend the incoming council consider? And I think Councillor Strobridge, maybe a little bit enhanced scorecard. I think that is bang on. I had the same thing. I totally agree. So on this question, are there any recommendations or changes to the committee structure that anyone else would like to add? And some of you wove that in, I think, in your answers already, but anybody else? Okay, I've got a couple, and maybe it'll inspire a thought or something for you to add as well. Here's my, first of all, I think the committee works. I think it's been highly successful. And I would hope that the next council would just continue, and that, a couple of weeks after the council has been sworn in, there's another growth committee meeting. I think it works. I think the council, or the committee rather, should really be driving recommendations into the strategic plan and the strategic planning process that is underway by the committee, the strategic planning committee, and ultimately will come back to the committees and to council, which is really, in my mind, a definition of what success looks like. I think the committee structure could be a bit more disciplined. I mean, we've done a lot of really great work. I'd like to see the committee have a strategic plan, objectives, metrics, all the things that you spoke about, Councillor Strobridge. I wrote down data as well. I'd like to see us have that, just really driven data and scorecard at once a quarter at least, to see how are we stacking up against our plans. I'd like to see us have, not every meeting, but at least a couple of times a year, innovative expert presenters from Vancouver, from Toronto, from the UK. Bring in, let's challenge ourselves to think and dream big, and bring in those, expose this community to innovative thinkers through this committee. I'd like to see that happen. I think our communication is a little bit better, but I think, to your point, Councillor Strobridge, we need to do a better job of celebrating the hard work and the wins. And, we've talked about it many times as a committee. How do we take that to another level so that we are communicating more proactively the wins, the scorecard, and explaining to the community why growth matters? I don't think we've come a long way, but I still don't know that folks understand how important growth is. Why does growing our tax base matter? Why does having more housing supply matter? And so on and so forth. I'd like to see a bit more benchmarking. Again, the scorecard and benchmarking. I think growth mattered so much, Deputy, 4 years ago or 5 years ago, because we had very little growth. Our growth was less than 1% of our tax base, and our costs were going up, far too quickly. And then I just wrote down define success, and I think I covered that off in my my comments around strategic planning. So those are my comments on the next round. Councillor Hickey, I thought you had your hand up, but maybe it went back down again. Councillor Strobridge, I'll come to you, and then anyone else that would like to speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, Don, listening to you, and one of the things that you talked about, and it's actually in our roadmap, is marketing, branding, and communications. And I've noticed this with a lot of other places. What I mean, other municipalities, around, I've seen it in Toronto as an example. Council, St. John Council, or those councils have their own communication staff that put out things. This is what council accomplished. This is what council voted on. This is what council's doing. And I often thought, okay, in St. John, unless it's picked up by the media or a certain councillor talks about it on their own social media, there's not a lot of direct communication from your council, from your municipal government out to the public. It's what you or I tweet out or Facebook post, or what's written in the papers. And oftentimes the media, as we all know, they only have so many words and so much space to put into their stories, but they don't always include the contextual details of it, or they may, if there's a 500-word decision, they only report 45 words. And I often thought around communication, even at the growth committee level, like I said, I can't remember everything that we did. I mean, I can't give you a lot of specifics. I can point to the sky and look at that crane over there, right? And so I would say, around the communication, we've often talked about at the entire council, with all the councillors, we need to tell our own story better, and we need to really tell our own wins with, and not rely on it coming out of the media, or, because sometimes even councillors, myself, I've been guilty over the years of commenting on something and forgetting very important facts about it, right? So moving forward, I mean, and I would certainly, I'm not advocating for somebody new to be hired by any means, but I really think the municipal government in St. John should have its own direct communications person and to tell our story, to cover not only council decisions and but also the committees. Just some feedback.
Okay, perfect. And I think that's consistent with the feedback we have provided to staff on a number of occasions. And I love the way that you said that, Councillor. I agree with you, by the way. I've said it the same way. Sometimes I've been a bit more critical if I'm a bit heated, but you only have so many words in an article. Like, I think it really is up to this, to the city to, these are complex subjects. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of information. I think the infographics have been really powerful that we produced. Let's just produce to the commissioner and to the director and others. Let's produce some growth related, and we have, but more of that complex broken down into simple in a very graphical presentation. I think would be good. Thank you for that. Councillor Hickey, I'll come to you and then go to you, Councillor McKenzie. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I put my hand back up just because I wanted to. I really appreciated your comments, and I thought they summed up the hopeful direction well. I guess I would just add that, as our growth continues to take hold, and there's obvious footprints of that throughout the community. I hope the conversation also includes topics around livability and that impact on growth, and how, when we benchmark against other communities, we're not only saying what are the successes we're trying to achieve based on those communities, but how are we avoiding the mistakes that they've made? Because one of the benefits that we have in looking at those benchmarking efforts and looking at other communities that have grown is we can see where they've misstepped as well. Instead of just saying, we want to do exactly as these communities have done, let's make sure that we're building solutions that are using their best practices, but are also addressing the needs and the mistakes that they have made. You've seen impacts of gentrification and things like that in neighborhoods in Halifax and Toronto. It's all over the world. How do we avoid those? How do we make sure we're maintaining livability? How do we make sure we're maintaining affordability as we continue to grow? I think that's part of the mandate of the Growth Committee, and I think that's part of that strategy and that concrete effort that we take too. I think just back, I know I mentioned in my previous comments, but I think an effort around having those informal roundtable discussions about best practices, about new efforts that the department's looking into, whether or not they're fully researched and fully discussed, but having those informal conversations, whether it's an open or closed, to get an understanding of where council's at, where staff's at, so it can be more big picture instead of single issue on our growth as issues come up. I think those are valuable in terms of the direction as we continue. I think those are my thoughts, and certainly agree with what's been said by Councillor Strobridge and the mayor as well.
Okay, thank you, David. Okay, Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I think the comment about communications is important, because as Ray said, you forget certain aspects of a topic, and it could be important, or your personal passion gets into it and it mixes the message, whatever it gets to be. So I think that having a communication director or whatever from the committee is important. I also think that picking up on what Councillor Hickey just said, the Growth Committee, I think, needs to start focusing more on attractions, and one that comes to mind, the livability part, is parks and recreation. I think that we need to really look at emphasizing the recreation and parks in the city of St. John, because I don't think we are known as a rec center. I don't think we advertise what we have here, as well as we could. So I think that going forward, just as much as we're trying to help out businesses and stuff, I think we need to start focusing on our attractions, to bring people in. Yeah, and back to Ray's comment about the one-stop development shop, that goes to show you that, one council is running into another, and that one-stop development shop was very prominent in, I think, this growth committee's efforts to get growth and working with developers. So there's a connection there, but you're right, you tend to forget over a period of time what the timelines are on things. But that's just my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a good example, though, actually, that you both mentioned. I mean, I want the next council to stand on the shoulders of the previous council. Never stop. Don't be satisfied. Keep going. Keep moving. You brought the one-stop development shop. We worked on culture and engaging with, as the deputy said, improvements within the system, listening to that feedback. I hope the next council takes it to another level. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be driven and keep moving forward, right? So, okay, thank you. Next question and last question. What should the next growth committee tackle in their first year around the committee table? What advice would we give to the next growth committee? Ray, do you want to kick us off?
My first question is around work that's left unfinished or undone. So was there any motions that were made by us that never got back to us before we ran out of time? So as an example, one of the ones that I brought last year or the year before was like livability bylaw, and it encompassed a few things, and then we said, yeah, okay, we can discuss that, and we sent it off to staff, and it hasn't come back yet. And I'm sure there's others that some of you have made too. So my first question is, and to staff, and maybe this isn't written in stone anywhere, but are previous committee members' bylaws or motions or whatever going to still be returned to the next growth committee for consideration? That's just a question that I had before I forget. But moving forward, the next growth committee, my advice would be, first off, get yourself familiar with the things that the previous one's already done, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. That certainly doesn't mean that you don't, like Dawn said, we build, right? We're passing the torch on, and take that ball and run further with it. Absolutely. But I would say familiar yourselves with our roadmap for smart growth. I consider it a living document. Change it because times change, circumstance change. So if you got to tweak it, add something, take something out, by all means, go for it. I would say, I've heard a lot of candidates compliment us, and not this committee, but this council on, the great fiscal responsibility. The momentum is a word that I hear tossed around a lot, that momentum. And I say, thank you for that. Thank you for recognizing that, because that momentum, we all played a role in getting going. So I would say to the next growth committee, look at what you consider the wins of your predecessors. Take that, build on it, even make it better. And also, if a scorecard is developed, then you can say, okay, well, maybe this wasn't as good as it could have been, or this didn't work at all, or that totally worked. So, charge that, go, work on that harder, because that's working. This one is not. I would just say, get to know the predecessors and the work we did to help shape your future on where you want to go next. Okay. I'd almost say they perhaps maybe they will need a teach-in, just learning city governance and everything, but at the committee level, I think they should get a recap. And sure. I think that scorecard is very important for that.
Yeah, and I like just to build on your comment for a second, and I know staff are I'm sure making lots of notes. I like that accountability, Counselor, of somehow in the working document of the committee, the strategic plan, here are the motions that were made, and here's the status on them, and then because again, I might make a motion, and in a couple of months the world has shifted and moved, and committee might say, we want that motion to just hold because staff only have so many hours, but some kind of accounting of where is that motion, open, not being actioned right now, closed, actioned, some kind of accountability around that piece. I like that. Thanks. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Richard. I think going forward, one of the things that we really have to look at as a growth committee is affordable housing options. We have a lot of what do you call it, ripple effects, I guess, with the amount of growth that's going on right now. We have people that are wanting to renovate their buildings, and so people have to move. These people come in, renovate their buildings, and now the rent goes up. So I think one of the biggest things we need to balance is our growth of new buildings that are going to be a little bit out of the price range for some people, and say, okay, where are we going to, how are we going to accommodate these other people? So I think for the growth committee, I mean, we have to look at ideas and bylaws and incentives, for developers to build, whether that means that they can build a little bigger, and we'll relax the bylaw for them, or for the permit. But affordable housing, I think, is going to be crucial going forward, and I think that's something that the growth committee should take ownership of. The other thing that I think that we need to continue looking at is, as we grow, we have, and I mentioned this before, we have only so much land uptown, only so many places to put vehicles. I think we have to, relook at our parking, uptown parking, and try to do better with our options for uptown parking. Thank you, Worship.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think just building off of the comments from everyone around the table, I think for me, the core of the momentum and the core of the growth is happening, and we're seeing that momentum grow. We're hearing a lot of folks comment on it, and we're seeing it in the numbers and the data as well. I think now that we have that growth going, and now that we have that momentum building, I think now it's the time for the next council and for the next committee here to shape it, to shape that into the neighborhoods that we want, the dynamic neighborhoods that we want to see in our community. And that means supporting an affordable housing strategy, looking at efforts like inclusionary zoning or density bonusing and efforts like that, really working to make sure that the dynamics of the community are shaped by this council and the next council and the next committee in particular. And it has really targeted strategy in identifying and supporting that momentum as well moving forward. I think really for me, when it comes to asking that question, what should the next growth committee tackle in the first year, it's identifying how we shape that growth and how we shape the momentum that's in the community.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Deputy, anything?
Your Worship, I am not going to add anything new that's startling, because we haven't completed, I'm not negative. We haven't completed everything yet. So until we do, you got to talk about quality of life. And if you don't keep those 3 words in mind, you're going to lose your growth. Growth is good, but you got to keep the growth. You got to maintain it. So when I say maintain it, I mean have a nice, clean, pretty, beautiful community. And we can do it in St. John. Yeah. But don't tell somebody on the new council, I can't put up a Canadian flag. My gosh, we haven't got a ladder to put it up there in Falls View Park or all the other places that we have to put it up. I mean, last year we wouldn't put up our flags, we didn't do our flowers, we didn't do things, all because of COVID. Well, really, we did have the money. We could arrange to do it. So please do all those nice things this year so everybody can see it, because you've got to maintain what you have. And if you just want to keep saying the word growth without servicing included, over time, you will lose what you've accomplished to date. So always keep that in mind. Don't move so fast that you can't remember that you got to do all these other things to keep people living in the community because they want it. they pay taxes. They want it. Sorry, they deserve it. They want it. So I'm still waiting for that. I'm hoping it happens. You know, we just got to do a better job this year. And I'm hoping we do.
I think that's excellent advice, Deputy. I think it's very pragmatic. I think it's excellent advice, and I think it's you know, you can go up to UMB St. John and teach in the marketing program. I think what you just told us is that the foundation and the fundamentals matter. And that, you know, plowing someone's street matters, having flowers matters, getting a flag up matters, getting a gate open, you know, for a park matters. So thank you for that. You're very passionate about those pieces, and I think it you know, you can shoot for the moon, but if you don't get the basics right, and nobody gives you a bonus for the basics, you just got to get the basics right. And so
But you know, I guess I'm just saying for the future, you have to stop. And you may not think it's a big job, as you're saying, but to all of our staff and all our departments, they'll never realize how the citizens enjoy all those nice things. And they're so small, and it doesn't take a lot of money. It just is caring about the community, I guess. So I hope that as we move forward in the city, that we remember that, because that will keep people in the city. Anyway, I don't want to preach on it too much.
No, I really appreciate.
If I'm really bored, I can come home and I can come down and plant all those flowers.
No problem. No problem. Well, we'll get in your as you transition off of council, Deputy. We'll get you a yellow vest and a hard hat, and you can get out there and make sure those gates are. You'd be fantastic.
I need a truck too.
We'll get you a truck. Yeah, we got a truck.
All those little jobs that people complain about. That's what matters most to them. Get those little jobs under control.
I want to get you one of those little. Deputy, I want to get you one of those little trucks from Japan, the ones that will go right down the sidewalks too.
I never got one. I always wanted one, but I never got one.
Okay, a couple of comments from me. Thank you very much. I think excellent feedback here today, folks. So in this last question, my advice would be define success through the growth lens and drive that to the strategic plan. I think we've mentioned, I agree, that the quality of life, it's big stuff, it's the small stuff. We have to have objectives, a work plan. We have to pay close attention through Ms. Hamilton and our city manager to envision St. John's strategic objectives and their direction. That really matters. Again, what we're counting on there is better growth outcomes. That's what we're investing in. And I think that regardless of whose responsibility it is, we have to have an overall community scorecard, economic, social, cultural, quality of life. And I think that the Growth Committee can play a big role in demanding that, you know, for the entire community. I think that lives in Envision St. John. I happen to believe we cannot thrive and go to and meet our full potential if we leave people behind. So it's not the economy over social aspects or social over the economy. These great debates we get into, are you a left wing lefty or a righty? No, it's as a community, what is our vision for us moving forward and growing and thriving? And I think we have to measure. If you don't measure it, you don't get progress. Economic, social, cultural measurement. I think I had affordable housing also to the other councillors, but I also think we have to keep the politics out of those conversations. We have to bring balance to those conversations. And I think we have to have the guts to have honest conversations with people. So for example, I know some believe that rent control is a silver bullet and will solve all of our problems, when in fact it could make our problems worse. So we have to have I think this committee, and I've talked to Ms. Hamilton about it, I think this committee should have also a part of its mandate to engage with and educate builders, developers, and citizens, but also for them to educate us on what does that prosperity look like. So affordable housing is critical. The affordable housing strategy coming at the end of the year here. I'm very proud of what we've done with dilapidated buildings, but now we're in the phase where we need to turn more of those dilapidated buildings into renovated, hopefully affordable units. I don't think this committee can afford to let its thumb off of municipal reforms, because I think those are the number one accelerator of growth and potential in this, in the next year, because municipal, the white paper is supposed to come out this fall. I'd like to see this committee, and I know that what I'm about to say could be controversial in some people's ears, but I'm not talking about an exorbitant amount of money. When COVID is gone, I'd like to see Jacqueline and Amy and Phil, a few folks, and committee go to Boston, go to Portland, go to Halifax, go to Moncton, get out of the city, and go see, walk on the streets, talk to some people, see what other communities are doing. How are they measuring quality of life? That expands our brain, and it gets us thinking, differently than we think today. Because I don't aspire to be a little bit better than the communities in our region. I aspire for us to be, why can we not be one of the 50 best managed companies in the country, even though a city is not a company? Why can we not be the fastest growing region in Atlantic Canada? So I would really encourage us to get out and go on some road trips, because I've done it my whole career, and it really inspires you to go to another level. And lastly, I want us to be the model as a community of openness and transparency and engaging with the community, and meaningfully engaging with the community. Why can the Growth Committee not have a couple of times a year listening sessions, explaining what we are doing, really out and engaging with the community, and recognizing that engagement happens every single day on Twitter, on Facebook, on the street? Like, there's many ways to engage, right? So those would be my comments on that last piece. Just keep going, but ratchet it up, be even more strategic, have even better defined goals, and keep the politics outside. Not suggesting we've been overrun by politics, and have the courage to have the really pull the conversations apart. And the example I would use in that, and I've talked to Jacqueline about this, bring somebody in, bring a developer in to explain how expensive it is to build apartment buildings right now. Then bring in the tenants groups to hear through their lens, like maybe be that catalyst. And we're going to do it in our affordable housing strategy for the end of the year. But anyway, I'll stop there. I am so proud of the work that this committee has done. We have changed this community for the better. We have achieved tangible results. And I think we're leaving off here as a committee in a really good spot. And I hope the next group just comes in and just keeps moving forward. So, okay, I think that's what we had on our agenda. I do have one other thing I'd just like to talk about. Committee, anything else from your perspective? Okay, I'll just take a swing at it. And just as we wrap up, I think it will be our last Growth Committee meeting. I am, again, I'm so proud of the committee. Thank you, John. Thank you, Shirley. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Blake. Thank you, David, for the work that you've done. There's been a lot of work in this committee. We've done a lot of heavy lifting. We have redefined what growth means to this community, and I don't believe it would have happened without you. So thank you for that. To our rock star staff, you have done, I'd love to, single each and every one of you out, but I do want to mention you to Ian Fogan, who's in his new role of strategic projects and strategic affairs and government relations. And like most of our rock stars in this organization, they have multiple jobs. You're thoughtful and caring and focused, Ian, and I wish you all the success moving forward. Our acting city manager this week is Kevin Fudge. He's also our commissioner of finance. He's tough and he's blunt and he manages the dollars just the way he should. He asks really good questions. He's demanding. He wants business cases. He wants ROI for the taxpayer, and he does a phenomenal job. Thank you. To our city manager, I don't want to forget him. He's on a bit of vacation this week. He has jumped into the deep end of the pool when he came here. He is shifting the culture. He is driving results for the organization. He's dealt with some very tough restructuring and all those other pieces. Thank you to you, John. To our Commissioner of Growth and Community Development, Ms. Jacqueline Hamilton. She is a tremendous leader, brings tremendous experience, not just from St. John, from Halifax and other places. She's level-headed, calm, and just gets things done. And in her world, with her responsibility, every single day there are fires and issues, and people are coming at our Commissioner of Growth and Community Development with a lot of challenges. We're not fast enough. We're not this. We're not that. And I think Jacqueline, you and your team have just done a phenomenal job. To the director of that Growth and Community Development, Mr. Phil Ouellette, he's thoughtful. He's disciplined. He crosses T's and dots I's. He's reflective. He has to go away and think about what we've just challenged him with, but he comes back with great information, great recommendations and suggestions, and just continue, Phil, to push and focus on delivering results for this great community. Ms. Poffenroth, not to be confused with the other Elections New Brunswick Poffenroth, but what a heavy-hitting family. Amy, again, another rock star member of our team, just has done incredible work, is also challenged on a daily basis, because with growth comes some challenges, comes some challenges on permits and engineering and crossing T's and dotting I's. And let's remember, folks, the job of Amy's group is to manage the codes, to balance risk, to keep the community safe. And they're often in a position where we want our building inspection teams to be respected, but they're always and often in a position where they're in enforcing codes and trying to make sure T's are crossed and I's are dotted. Also challenged every day in her role with her team, and just does a phenomenal job. Amy, we are grateful for the work that you've done. To the clerk's office, to Kelly and Richard, who have guided us, prepared the agendas, helped us get online over the last year, done the minutes, and just really kept us moving forward. Thank you. The meetings wouldn't happen without you either. To Mr. Dobbelstein, who came from Pro Kids and other more, sort of temp Pro Kids, and then into a temporary role. You've continued to really step up and step up and step up, David. You came in as the population growth manager. You're now playing a new growth management role, and it's really been a joy to see you grow. Excuse that pun in front of us, but really grow in front of us and do a phenomenal job. You've been tested, and I think you've stepped up, and we're grateful to you as well. So I don't think I missed anybody. If I did, I'm sorry. I mean, Nancy Moore wasn't able to attend today. Barb Crawford was on quickly. Mark Dion was on in his role from transit and parking. Nothing gets done here without our staff. And lastly, I'd say I know. I can be a bull in a china shop. I am passionate. I want this city to achieve its full potential. We are so full of potential. We are Canada's most historic city. When I think about the potential before us, the port, UMB coming together as a region, the potential before this next council and staff over the next 4 years is tremendous, and we have to grow. We have to grow by 2,000 people a year, and I want us to work backwards from what we must achieve and just go do it, because we're so capable of doing it. So with that, it's been a pleasure to be the chair of this committee and to be the mayor. I think at our next council meeting, we'll probably have some of these goodbye speeches, but thank you so much for the work that we've done. Thank you to staff. I hope we've given you some valuable feedback today, and it's been a pleasure. All right, so that's the last growth committee meeting, I think, for us. So we'll say see you later until next time, and have a great day. Thanks, everyone. See you.